Close Up is brought to you by the Kia Sorento R, redefining the power of Kia.
Welcome back. Here's my driver's licence and it says donor. You know what that means? It means nothing. Ticking the donor box is meaningless. Do you know how many transplants come from deceased donors last year? 38, plus another 65 from live donors. The waiting list, mainly for kidneys, is more than 600. People die waiting on that list. Now, one idea to remedy that is to bring cash into the equation. Compensation, if not incentives. But that has the doctors outraged. We'll hear from one shortly. But first, here's Lisa Glass.
This was not how Kaleni Ta'ala had imagined his life panning out.
A lot of fatigue, a lot of tiredness.
Diagnosed with diabetes, his body deteriorated, then eventually kidney failure. For the last 4 years, he's stared at hospital walls 24 hours a week.
The needles I put in myself, scary too, because the needles are quite big and long.
Organ transplants were once medical miracles. Now it's not so much the procedure that's miraculous, it's actually getting an organ.
300 plus people on the waiting list at any one time, and people can wait 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 years for a kidney.
We have some of the lowest organ donation rates in the OECD.
Eric Crampton's an economist, yes, an economist, and he's among a number of people questioning the rules that prohibit payment for organ donation.
The doctors are paid for their services, the nurses are paid for their services. The only one that it's unethical to provide any payment to is the guy whose kidney is going to help save somebody's life. That seems a little odd.
He's got suggestions ranging from helping with funeral costs for deceased organ donors to compensation for time off work for live donors. And he's not opposed to what health authorities consider to be the most onerous of all, the straight-out payment of cash for organs.
Maybe there's $10,000 worth of value in there that could help provide a lump sum for my family after I'm dead. Wouldn't that be nice? And it would go to save a whole pile of other lives.
What he's discussing is currently illegal and the medical fraternity says unethical.
It's exploitation, really, of donors. I've got people ringing me up saying, I want to donate a kidney, I need some money. You know, how do I go about it? It happens. Seriously.
That sort of unregulated trade's not being advocated by anyone. But Organ Donation New Zealand, the body that coordinates transplants in this country, is so opposed to the idea of money being brought into the donation equation that it refused to play any part in this report, except to remind us that selling human tissue is illegal and New Zealand's a signatory to an international declaration prohibiting it.
It's certainly a delicate business.
I'm not sure where I sit with that. Then it becomes sort of like a meat market, eh? They start to exploit their own bodies just for the venture of making money. Yeah, I sort of think there's a disrespect in that.
And there's the fear that donors would end up being as vulnerable as the people that need the organs in the first place.
Because probably the experiences in country where organs have been traded, you know, not only is the money spent very quickly, you're also now minus a kidney.
But couldn't regulation prevent that?
It greatly increases supply and means that people aren't willing then to go to organs of dubious quality that might be harvested out of Chinese prisons.
Then there's the idea of compensation for medical costs and lost earnings.
I think that is a good idea, and as long as it's, in my mind, as long as it's tied to actual expenses rather than a blanket figure given to everybody.
If you're a live organ donor, you're being generous in more ways than one. Months of recuperation are needed, and right now the most you'd be eligible for is a work and income benefit.
Here we'd be trading off the extra amount of money that the public health system would have to pay on the transplant side against all the savings that they get on the dialysis side.
Of course, live donors are only part of the equation. If payment for organs was possible, families could discuss the options when wills are being drawn up.
And they're not having this reflexive, defensive kind of move where my family members just died and you're asking me if I'm willing to have him be cut up.
I probably would have difficulty with that. You know, if somebody were to ask me, would you like to donate your daughter's organs, we'll pay you for it, I don't think I'd be very happy with that.
But for any kind of payment or compensation, it would take a law change at the very least and a big shift in mindset. Meanwhile, hundreds of sick Kiwis wait. But Kaleni says he wouldn't want to be part of a donation that was more like a sale. He reckons there's a lot of heart that goes into giving a kidney.
If you're lucky enough to get a transplant, then Ian Dittmer here, now he's a guy, well, he's one of the guys who you put your life into their hands. He runs the medical side of the transplant unit at Auckland Hospital. So, Ian, surely any way to increase the supply of donors is a good thing, isn't it?
Well, I think that making sure that we get organs from legitimate sources is a good idea. I don't think that any idea is a good idea, no.
So, paying cash for organs, just no way?
No, in my opinion, that's not the way we should be going.
There's a bill before Parliament suggesting compensation, because people, I mean, you see this more than anyone, people who come in and donate a kidney, stuffs up their life for a while, doesn't it?
It does, and so if you're a live donor, then we'd expect that people would have at least 4 weeks off work, and if you're donating to your spouse or your children, then it's going to be the whole family that's out. And if you're already budgeting, you know, got difficulties with budgeting, then it gets worse during that time.
So what's the difference? If you're offering, say, compensation or will make up your wages or help you with either other costs, that's not crossing the line, but if you offer an upfront payment, it is.
Yeah, I think that in countries which have tried upfront payments, it seemed like a good idea, but a lot of those people who have received the money, it just hasn't turned out to be the godsend that they thought it was going to be.
Tell me, why doesn't this work? Why do I tick a box? I mean, you would love it if you could operate off that all the time, couldn't you?
Yeah, well, I think at the time that people, you know, die, and usually in tragic circumstances in intensive care units, then it's a fraught time for families. And so ticking the box, it's not pointless. It means that, you know, you should go home after you've done that when you've got your driver's licence and say, you know, this is what I've done, and talk about it with your family. I
was going to say, what is the solution? You need to tell your family, I want this to happen.
Yeah, and I think that's something you've got to talk about. You know, you talk about other important decisions that you're going to make in your life, and that's another one of those things that you do. Because, you know, when people are in intensive care units, it's a really bad and horrible time, and if you've had that discussion beforehand with your children or your spouse, it makes all the difference, I think.
Have you ever been offered kidneys for sale, by the way?
Yeah, every now and again. My transplant coordinators are rung up and someone says that they'd like to see whether they could get some money for giving a kidney or something, yeah.
Is it live donors or dead donors that you need more?
We need both of those donors, but well, fortunately not enough people die in New Zealand that could become organ donors because we have good hospitals. People aren't dying as often in road crashes as what they were beforehand, and so
better safety.
Better safety. So it's live donors really which we need to be looking at increasing the numbers of.
Obviously family, friends, I mean close relatives often step up, but you get these altruistic people who come out of nowhere.
Yeah, we do. And I guess that's something which has happened over the last few years, and we've had a number of people coming forward to us in Auckland. Christchurch, as I was saying to you before, had a lot of people come through.
Would that be the biggest?
Yeah, Christchurch.
More altruistic in Christchurch?
Yeah. Yeah, no, I can't think of any sensible reasons why that might be, but it's something which people do, and I think that people, you know, want to do good things. They give blood, they're involved in community organisations, and some of those people have said they want to go ahead and take another step and give a kidney.
Hey, look, we'll put some links on our website, so if people are interested, they can get onto that and find out what to do. But talking about it, I think, is really the great. Ian, thanks so much for your time. Right. Ian Dittmer there from Auckland Hospital.